tell, then you see the road. I'm out to my soul into the sides. Whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect. Do it.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the fourth part of, What If My Little Pony Meets Naruto? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of JBoy44 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Sunset was walking around at night alone thinking to herself, so got my brain back in whack thanks to my brother the 10 tails weird day. She then jumped and growled holding her claws out when she smelled something and heard loud footsteps and turned to see Pain in his walking chair. Pain looked up at her and said, "Relax cousin, we are both Uzumaki clansmen." "So I just want to talk," he said showing his Rinnegan eyes as Sunset took a step back in horror. The red-haired kitsune shivered, You're the guy we talked about, the leader with the eyes that can control my brother. "I won't let you make him your SLV weapon of war," she said summoning fire like chakra to cover herself while still being visible scared. Pain chuckled, "The baby lady already end her life to rejoin our friend and soon me when I told her the change to my plans. Ask the old toad, he knows my eyes as he trained me. When you awaken cousin you'll have the eyes of a god. I trust you to keep your brother in line to make this world free of war. After all that's all I want as a war orphan." Sunset then blacked out. The next day the leaf ninja found a legless corpse and Sunset was holding her head looking at the mirror in shock as her eyes were now the Rinnegan as she shivered, "He put his eyes in my head," she said fighting the urge to claw out the new eyes in horror at the statement. Jiraiya walked over and said, "Well, I guess this puts both our kitsune out of business. You need to learn to control those things." The vixen then held her hand out to push him away, but before she made contact he was sent flying 10 miles away through every tree possible as she gulped. "Yeah, don't want to do that to Flash. Wait, if I can push then can I?" She spotted Flash walking and in a moment moved her hand towards her and Flash was pulled towards her by unseen force and she grabbed him with a smirk and said, "Well, that part one like." She then kissed him deeply. Shino had his hands in his pockets as he said, 10 tails and sage of the 6 paths. Well, this trip turned F, but at least that's 6 members left. Meanwhile in a meeting place, Toby was standing saying, "Okay, I know I am the new guy, but I am starting." As I looked over Ring Eye's suicide note, he said he want to remake the world by 10 tails and the age working together, so he chose to take the new easier less hassle way for it. Zetsu's white side said, "Well, now that's F, the darker side, and a big setback for our plans." Deidara then held out his left palm using that mouth to say, "Well, side two-faced plant thing. I mean honestly, what the F is he, they, or whatever? Someone explain this SHT. Haydn rolled his eyes, Jashin will to be pleased with their lives ending like that. Kakuzu then held his hand up, "Can we focus on the fact the leaf just beat us to our goals by complete and total mistake because the puppet boy F up?" Toby pointed at him and said, "Thank you for being the voice of reason SHT in context that's horrible to say. Anyway, gentlemen, and whatever the hell Zetsu is. We need ideas. Right now the 10 tails and new sage are on the move in training and as twins they will sharpen each other making going after them suicide mission that would end in failure mostly because we're only on one hand of the statue right now," he said pointing to the whole empty hand. Deidara held out his right hand and its mouth said, "Relax my man, your spy guy has what you need. There is this other BRT with some 9 tails chakra sealed into him. We'll just get 9 tails chakra from him. The way I see it we don't need the beast themselves, just their chakra." Zetsu darker side said, "Yes, but the beast will make it faster to grow and more powerful." The lighter side, "Yes, but that's not an option now." Kakuzu then said, "So our 10 tails will be patchwork and not pretty like theirs, it'll still work as good. I mean look at me, I am patchwork and I kill people just fine." Haydn then held his chin as he said, "As much as it pains me I must sin by admitting the truth in their words. It will mean less slaughter, but 10 tails versus 10 tails will make up for it in the long run." Toby then said, Okay, so let's put it to a vote, all for laying low and just gathering the minimal chakra form each beast we need to make our own. Raise your hands. Everyone raised a hand as he said, more reasonable than I though we would be. Nice to see both of the plant things hands up. Haydn then held up his scythe. I demand a PRD of training and or slaughter between grabs. So our prey may be worthy at the very least. The one-eyed orange-masked man face-palmed, and we break down. Okay, who agrees with the crazy guy who on giving them some time before we do a goddamn thing to get strong so they would be worth the challenge. The dark side of the plant thing raised a hand and the other zombie put his hand up saying, sorry guys, we are too easy to take down if we don't back each other up. I have to agree. Toby counted and said, okay, that's 2.5 votes for yes, I vote no. So, he then looked to the plant thine's light side and Daedara, you two's vote. The spy guy opened his gut to show a mouth on his stomach that screamed, no. The light side of the plant thing then responded, I agree, but I would have SHT myself if I could SHT. Toby face palmed again as he said, okay, we have a tie. Gentlemen, anyone got a coin? The patchwork man held out a join and said, yeah, the yes win, tails the nose win. He then grabbed it and opened his hand to show tails. Well, the yes win, we give them some time, let's say like 2 years. The other undead man nodded and said, yeah, that works for me. The one-eyed man said, great, meeting over, meet back in 2 years. Split, they all left. The white side of the plant said, this ruins Our Lady's plan, man. We now have a perfect match for her. The darker side said, yeah, she was always more power over skill, so skill with same power she would fall in a matter of minutes, she isn't even worth bring back anymore. The white half said, find a new MSTR, the dark side then high-fived his other side. Meanwhile on the train's roof Sunset and her brother were sparing. Sunset used her eyes making one ring glow as she waved her hand summoning a lion-sized fox that charged only for her brother to summon a wooden bat to knock it out with a club strike. The vixen then summoned 2 sets of arms to preform Shadow Clone and Fireball Jutsu at the same time, making 5 more of her appear and all 6 spit fire. Naruto wrapped himself in his tails, them getting Spiker making a shield around him, and when the fire went down he unwrapped himself and summoned what looked like ice shuriken out of air that hit and make the 5 clones go poof. The 10 tails then made a clone and sent it out as Sunset made her second set of arms vanish. The lady then put her hand on the clone's head making it go poof as her eyes glow. You did eat the last ramen cup last week, you didn't even cook it, she said in rage. Naruto rolled his eyes as he said, really sister, doing this now? He then spat out a fireball for Sunset to hold out her hand absorbing the chakra. A strange head then appeared behind Sunset as its mouth opened and a hand tongue grabbed Naruto's tongue and the 10 tails let out a, okay, www. Sunset shrugged, it's the last path, I haven't used brother. Okay, truth or death, ever thought of making pizza ramen? Naruto blinked before saying, yes. The head and hand holding his tongue vanished as he went to wipe his tongue on his sleeve as he said, gross gross gross. A few days later in the land of the sea. Kiba was walking around as he looked to Akamaru and said, okay buddy, let's recap what we know. The guy running this sound base was trying to make fish people that can look like normal people. So the sound base is probably underwater, putting us at a disadvantage. Akamaru then looked up and asked, so we're looking for mere people on land? People ran screaming form the dog as Kiba nodded. The dog then sniffed it out and said, I smell fish and it ain't form a stall, he said pointing at the girl covered in bandages people were avoiding. She the fish, he said over again. Kiba walked up and asked a guy, who is that? The guy then said, the cursed women, she returned form being spirited away, she is monster. Kiba held his chin as he pulled out his improved chakra claws, put them on and charged. In a moment he slashed the air making the women's bandages fall off, formed the rapid slash to reveal fish scales. My dog was right, you are mermaid. People were gasping and screaming. She turned into her fish person form and scales on her left arm as she ran trying to get to the water, but Akamaru in Kiba clone mode showed up tackling her and growling as he said, got the fish lady. Kiba grabbed a large fishing net form a person, sorry catching mermaid. He then threw the net as Akamaru returned to normal and the net landed on Isaribi. The fish lady was about to use her fangs to bite through it, but a gentle palm strike knocked her out. That is when Niji holding Spike came out. We heard yells of talking demon dog and mermaid. Spike looked at the knocked out lady. Yep, that's a mermaid all right. He then hopped down and rubbed his nose against Akamaru. Akamaru looked around. That's right, we're gay talking dogs, we're here, we're proud, deal with it, he said happily. Kiba was pulling the net with knocked out fish lady returning to human form as he said, come on Niji, help me drag this lady back to base. Damn, she needs to go on a diet. F. How heavy are mermaids? Meanwhile at the leaf camp made around the train. Hayashi Hyuga was walking to Tsunade. I checked the waters, there is no way the report we found can be right. At that point Isaribi in mermaid form ran by, making him jump as Tsunade smirked. The fish lady was heading for the water. Kiba, Akamaru, Spike and Niji were running after her. Stop that mermaid, she's our only lead, called Spike. In a moment the fish lady found herself floating in the air as she screamed, spotting Luna as she called out, monster. Pinkie Pie then popped up holding a mirror and she said, really now have you looked in the mirror there mermaid bee? Kimimaro walked up summoning a bone sword from his palm as he held it and pointed, now talk little mermaid. Even I can tell those scales in human form are grafts, not part of it. You were experiment on. You work for a madman under promise of being cured. Been there, they won't follow true. Twilget dropped her as Kimimaro said, Orochimaru is dead, take us to the one who did this to you. We will use his notes to cure you, or at the very least you can be around others who won't judge you for being part fish. I mean, look around at this freak show we call a village. Suigetsu smiled as he held his new sword over his shoulder. I should go. I can become water and move through it. This sword wants to eat. Haku held up his hand. Ice is wind and water. I can make an ice diving bell for myself to make it. This can be my big day. The women said, I'll do it. Later on she was in her fish man form leading Haku, who was in the diving bell as Suigetsu was water swimming within Samahata. The blade groaned and Spike like its mouth being used by Suigetsu to say, look at that, lights form a cave under the sea. They all then came into it, and as Suigetsu reformed, thanks the stored for storing my outfit. They heard clapping and turned to see Amachi turning into his form and doing hand seals. What lovely specimens, he said as he completed his summoning jutsu to call upon the Yumabozu, behold living water. Suigetsu rolled his eyes and he said, so I am living water too, and my sword eats chakra. He said, his blade's handle bending, allowing it to be used like a flail to hit the blob, and in a moment the blade's mouth opened, drinking it all up, making it grow so large the blade now blocked the way out of the room. The madman opened his mouth to fire off a water projectile, only for Haki to freeze it as he summoned the crystal ice mirrors. The ninja jumped in and in a moment was rapidly moving, throwing Senbon at the fish man who was firing off his scales to try and hit Haku, but it was nothing. Before long the fish man was bleeding, falling to his knees as he said, I never had a cure for you Isaribi, I was going to cut you open and figure out how you lived through it better. He then bleed out. In a moment Suigetsu high-fived Haku as Isaribi was shaking at how quickly it ended. Haku then said, okay fish lady, let's find his notes and other things and get our SHT so we can get a move on. Later on the train was moving as Shikamaru was using the phone to talk to Kabuto, so the fish lady is coming with us. The sound fell apart, so our plan to make an emperor of the leaf has failed, but we did find notes on a way to make plants grow quicker. It should counter what the sound did to our ground. Kabuto back in the leaf was beside Limestone as he said, well good to know then, so how long till you're back home? The phone then said with Shikamaru's voice, don't know, we have to go the long way thanks to this thing not being able to get on a boat, and a rock slide destroyed the route we took here, so we need to cut through the land of birds to get back. It's troublesome man. Limestone then asked, and my sister? Shikamaru, bugging all the new people we picked up on the way. Well, I am pretty sure Kimimaro and Luna have a thing going on, but other than that nothing to really report other than Haku gutted a merman. The mayor looked away as Kabuto, oh darling, you need to be a bit nicer, I mean they are bringing another cheat sheet for relimbing me. I can't wait to get back to being an active shinobi. Limestone then said, hang it up and come with me boyfriend. Kabuto did as he was told as he walked off with her. The train was steaming through the forest, its arms slashing down trees and loading it on to Ti's roof to be used as firewood for later today. On it. While inside, Sunny Flare was talking to Mike Guy, who had his leg resting on ice. So what's this deal with the land of birds, and while all the people with swords seem on edge? Guy Sense nodded as he held his chin. Oh, so good to see the young people taking an interest in our world. Very well, I shall tell you about the rebellion in the land of birds. There was once a group called the Wandering Shinobi who went from small village to small village stealing whatever jutsu they could find without school or clan, but one day their leader wanted a home, so he set himself up in a place of power so that if the prince and princess died, he would be next to the land of birds' throne. Sunny Flare held her chin and said, "Gee, this sounds like a ghost story," but her eyes widened as Guy said, "Because it is." The teacher then continued as he said, "So he went to slash one of the twins and did so, but when the princess ran for help, this ghostly samurai came out and used a halberd to slash the shinobi's head off." The teacher took a sip of a drink and said, "This samurai was called the Cursed Warrior by the people. It still roams their land to this day, running around murdering anyone with shinobi skills who dares to enter it. The princess believes it is her twin's vengeful soul. As when the warrior appears, she feels thrills and sees her brother's old garden wither more and more." Later on, Sunny Flare was telling this story around the campfire. The other shadow bolts laughed till one of them pointed and screamed. For there was the cursed warrior, his mask shattered to reveal a ghostly face under it. Zabuza trying to use Kai to release the illusion, but it wouldn't, forcing him to use his sword to block an axe strike. Form the weapon. "You are real. I am fighting a ghost. Who do you call for this?" he said, rapidly slashing his weapon to block the ghost samurai's weapon strikes as he said, "Don't just stand around running frozen in fear or taking pictures. Help us." The warrior let out a groan of, "All shinobi are monsters." Zabuza jumped on top of a train, making the ghost show up there by a teleport as he said, "Well, based on the story, can't blame you for thinking it," he said, trying to figure it out. But that is when the warrior switched to using his halberd one-handed and drew his sword. He gave a trust with the weapon's spearhead, and when Zabuza blocked it, he went in for a katana slash, only for Zabuza to have a short water sword in half to block it. "Your kenjutsu is on point," he said, complimenting the murderous ghostly warrior. At which point the ghost warrior jumped back and let out a roar, making a fireball spit form its mask. The demon of the mist jumped off the train as he said, "Fighting a ghost. Gee, I hope I move half as good as this when I kick the bucket." The warrior jumped down to try and stab Zabuza with a diving leap, but their two blades slashed again, making the dead fighting land beside the train as the demon of the mist said, "No wonder you were killed in your sleep. You probably would have beat the wandering ninja in a fight. You warrior prince." The dead prince charged with a groan. Zabuza went to dodge, but that is when he noticed one of the anthros they saved was behind him screaming, so he moved back in the way, dropping his sword and water blade jutsu as the spear hit him in the shoulder and he screamed. The anthro's eyes widened. The ghostly samurai dropped his halberd and took steps back in shock. "You let yourself be injured to save another?" Zabuza held his bleeding shoulder wound as his bandages came off to show his mouth in a smirk as he said, "The only monsters here are the guy who tried to kill your family and end you, and I guess you. Mass murder." The warrior let out a scream as he fell apart into ash around them. The next day Zabuza was rubbing his now bandages wound as Haku came in saying, "Dad, what do you think happened to the cursed warrior? Did he finally let go and move on?" The adopted dad said, "Haku, you are too pure. With his shocking after what you went through and the fact you call me dad, but what I think happened is he put his hate on his murder, and his sisters would be murder on all shinobi, so learning not all shinobi are like him and he has been murdering innocent people was too much for him and he sent down to hell. But who knows, maybe actions post-death don't count." Unknown to the shinobi, the princess of the land of birds walked out into her brother's garden and found to her shock it was starting to bloom again as she smiled, "You're finally at rest, brother." Later on in the mountains the train stopped. Luna's voice then came out over the megaphones as the train's arms start to drag the train along. "Our heels just broke, so we are moving at a snail's drag speed. It'll be a day instead of a few hours till we are back in the land of fire, and then who knows how long till we are at the village gate." Meanwhile, on top of it, Naruto was looking at some melted marks in the shape of feet with Hinata. "Look, Hinata, the cursed warrior's footprints were burned in." The Hyuga lady held her chin and said, well it did use fire release, so I guess that makes sense, a mass of chakra with no body to hold it in. The 10 tails looked up holding his chin. I know I shouldn't doubt ghosts being I am a demon and all the other magical stuff we have here, but it's still just something strange. I mean, even my father's ghost in the compound can be explained with seal work holding a massive of chakra around till its job is done. But this guy, nothing but love for his twin can explain his return. I mean, I get it, but still it shouldn't be so strong it can break nature. Hinata kissed his cheek as he said, not really, I am sure if you were in the same place you would do the same. Naruto shook his head to get the image of a ghostly him as the curse warrior as he said, I guess so Hinata my dear. I just can't wait to be home. But right now Zabuza holds a new title, the only shinobi to face the cursed warrior and live to tell the tale. The Hyuga nodded in agreement with her boyfriend as she added, yeah, almost as much as me taming the 10 tails. Meanwhile in the Leaf, Kabuto just got the they will be late call as he sighed, well it's over anyway, I wonder what will happen now, he said as his mitten hand fell off as he bent over to pick it up and screw it in, hopefully we prefect this thing so I can be a ninja once again. He then fell over his plastic legs, breaking at the knee as Limestone walked over and sighed, I'll get the wheelchair. Kabuto gave a thumbs up as he said, love you doll face. Well, I guess I am more of the doll at this point. With the breakable parts, he then looked out and said, why does everyone wear sandals? The trackless train was still dragging itself till it stopped and everyone got off with packs as Luna said, okay, we are in our now dead forest, it's a few hours hike home. We'll take it instead of the day to get our train there. Why did the wheels give out? Twilget sighed as she kissed her hand, then the train, yeah, it was a wonder of the world. We'll fix it if we need it. Everyone was heading out as Trenderhoof looked at the dead trees, so sad. Indigo Zap was looking creeped out, how in the hell do they all look alike? Yamato then held out a seed and using wood release made it turn into a flower. They looked stunned as the shinobi said, would release the bloodline limit that only works for the males of our founder's family. He had Sage Mode granting him infinite power, so in one day he did what I just did but on an epic scale, growing this forest in a minute, form one seed. Since they all came form the same seed, they all grow and looked alike. Makes me honored to share his DNA. While other people who didn't know looked impressed and asked how he was related to the Leaf's founder, Yamato said, a mad scientist kidnapped me out of an orphanage and rewrote my DNA to match his, turning me into his clone. People's eyes widened as he said, the other 100 kids died of cancer but I lived just fine. Why was I the only one who lived? He said sadly, looking at the flower before dropping it. Pinkie Pie cleared her through, enough cloning blues please. Point is, we found the antidote to our poison ground problem, let's get home, get making it spray our fields and forests so Yamato, powered by our fox twins using chakra transfer, can regrow it all just like the first did. Yamato smiled as he said, the fact I will end up doing the same thing as him makes me happy for some reason. Kimimaro then spoke up as he added, it's simple, it spites your maker much like with me. It's so much fun to spite the madman who created you. The Little Mermaid then said, F yeah. Kiba rolled his eyes as he said, yeah, going to be nice to save the leaf, and we have all this new stuff, formed the sound to try out and a shortcut to help Kabuto return to shinobi duty. Lee smiled as he kicked in air, can't wait to see our friends' flames of youth burn bright once more guys, he said as Guy Sense thumbed up him. Only for Applejack to pop up between them and said, don't you two do that sunset man hug thing. The Hyugas shivered at the memory as Niji said, yeah, we see it in inferred way worst. Akamaru shivered, impossible. Spike then licked his neck, making him turn red and look at his boyfriend, not no honey buns. Choji was eating chips and let out a statement, how are the dogs, the sickeningly sweet couple? Everyone shrugged. Flash was whipping his forehead as he said, yeah man, it's a hot day for those of us with fur. Sunset was fanning herself with her tails, can't wait to see mom again. When we left, me and my brother were still semi-feral and I wasn't the sage of the 6 paths and my brother wasn't the 10 tails. Naruto nodded as he used his 10 tails to pull Hinata closer, making her turn red as he summoned 2 shadow clones. The clones kissed both of Hinata's checks, making her faint into the real one's arms before dispelling. The 10 tails, now carrying Hinata bridal style, said, yes, we have changed a lot. Rainbow looked at the scene and said, "Yeah, smooth demon, very smooth. I would say sly fox, but let's not make any fox jokes. Okay people, ponies, and fish," she said, trying to include everyone. Fluttershy was carrying her Anko's angel's coat over her shoulder, fanning herself as Shino had a nosebleed beside her as she said, "I know it's way too hot here. Not even the tropics were this hot." Yamato touched a dead tree and said, "That's because this is the aftermath of a fire." They all stopped as he said, "While the grass and trees were dead beforehand, the wood is still hot, showing there was a fire." He also stepped over a line to point to behind him was no trace of grass, but before him was a trace of grass, as he added, "Plus we can see the burn line, read try wood on tall trees." It was like a lighting wood and one spark boom. The walls around the village probably went up like a lighter. While everyone looked worried, Lee came back and bowed, "I just ran ahead, the gates have burn marks but they are fine, as is the village inside." So Yamato guessed that the firefighters did their job well is true. Still impressive, he figured it out. Niji turned on his eyes as he looked, "Yeah, my inferred is showing red-hot trees around us." Hisashi nodded in agreement, adding to his nephew's statement, "The flames are out but the wood is still hot, like a wood-burning oven being put out." Haki raised a hand, flash freezing a tree to see it slowly melting from the inside out. Weird, it means we'll need to wait for this to die down before we can regrow our forest and save the leaf. Sai was moving a finger in the air and said, "Okay, I am getting a long time, what do you all get?" Twilight held out 2 fingers, 2 weeks. That's how long we'll need to wait to regrow the forest, and that's only because that's how long it'll take water release to clear out the burned trees and head. Zabuza made hand size before unleashing a water dragon to knock over trees. "Then everyone with water jutsu stay with me, that includes you flyers who can make it rain, will get to work on it now," he said happily. 2 weeks later, Yamato was standing before the now empty plain around the leaf village, holding a bag of tree seeds with her. Throw the seeds before getting down and touching the ground. Naruto and Sunset put a hand on his shoulder and glow, making him glow as he called out, "Would release forest growth." In a moment a forest of trees that looked the same sprung up around the village. They were only a little taller than a person, but they were there. Yamato smiled as he walked out, spinning to get a look at his forest. "I did it. I lived up to his legacy. I have made him proud." Naruto and Sunset high-fived and happily said, "Go Fox Twins." Elsewhere, the sight of the forest was attracting more of the villagers, old and new. While in the tower, Celestia kicked back in her chair smiling, "And just think, I have 9 more months before I can hand this hat off to Tsunade and make her the 6th Hokage. May only be a year, but it will go down in history." That is when a Naruto shadow clone came in and she smiled, "Oh my darling son, what wonderful news do you bring?" "I am going to be a grandmother." Naruto's clone flat out said, "Me and Hinata are not married yet, mother. Either is Flash and Sunset." Celestia smiled and gave a thumbs up so clearly that was the answer she was looking for. Naruto put down a scroll, then dispelled, and Celestia read it. "Oh, he wants him and his friends to go on a long camping trip for training. Sounds like normal spring break or after collage thing. Let's see how long, 2 years. She slammed it down and yelled out, "Naruto and Sunset Shimmer Uzumaki, get your furry asses in here, NOWW. She said, her mane mimicking 9 tails in rage. Celestia was in her office looking at her twins. "Naruto, Sunset, care to explain to mommy why you want to leave for 2 years with all your little friends and the ones you date?" She sounded calm, but behind her was a flaming copy of Daybreaker. Naruto rolled his eyes and without fear stated, "Simple mommy dear, I am the 10 tails." Sunset continued, pointing to her eyes as she added, "And I am the sage of the 6 paths, everyone is going to be coming for us." The male twin then added, "So we need training to control this new powers, mom. And we can't train here, we would be a media circus." The acting Hokage sighed at the comment, tapping on her desk as she said, No, you cannot be winning this," she said, struggling to counter her kid's point. Elsewhere in the village, Kabuto had new metal arms and legs, jogging behind Lee, who was running on his hands as he said, "Hold up, show Boda, this isn't a race, it's getting me back in shape," he panted, holding his new legs. Lee was standing on his hands. "Getting you back up to shinobi grade will be hard, my youthful friend." At that point they passed by Diamond Tiara, who looked lost, so Lee jumped to his feet. I know you, you're Diamond Tiara, you joined the Shinobi Academy. To the horror, you're your father filthy rich. He complains so much and he is big news, he made so much money by selling your world's basic tech. Kabuto pulled out his new flip phone, but to the joy of Kurenai, his girlfriend and future wife. Lot has changed since we've been gone, he said, sending a text. Sorry, need to reply to Limestone. I don't want her mad at me, she is more aggressive, angry Pinkie Pie, but sane and use her super strength, simple but effective. Pinkie Pie then skipped along a summoned toad carrying her bags as she waved and said, sorry to cut end, but throwing a welcome home party for all of us who went out at the Hyuga compound later, all are welcome. Tiara blinked before saying, yeah, that's kind of why I am here. Kurenai is teaching me Genjutsu, but it's not my thing. I want to learn Taijutsu. I mean, I am an earth pony anthro, I have super strength, I should use it. Lee smiled as he flipped back onto his hand. Then join us on our job, then basic martial arts. We need to get Kabuto back up to stop a little at a time. Need to test the limits of his new limps. As they took off, Kabuto, I know they can handle the kick of an untrained anthro earth pony mare, as the Limestone's mom hates me and made it clear by kicking me in the metal arm. It wasn't even tented, but I was sent flying through a wall. Thank goodness Sakura walked by to heal the injuries to the parts of me not made of metal. Lee looked back to him, now running on his hands backwards, as he said, that could logically be of use. If the only parts of you that can be injuries or your torso and head, your taijutsu style should be all about blocking with your metal limbs. They don't feel pain, so it should work wonders on wearing down the enemy so you can attack at an opening. Kabuto chuckled as he adjusted his glasses. You think that though didn't hit me, my friend. I installed a fold-out shield in my left arm, he said as he put chakra in the arm, making two metal square plates pop out of his metal forearm, one on each side, making a shield. He retracted as he said, it's simple but will work. I also made some trick limps. Tiara rolled her eyes as she ran along beside them as she commented, are all shinobi weird, or is it just the leaf ones? Lee smiled as he answered with pride, no, just the good ones are weird. Just the good ones. Meanwhile, back in the tower, Celestia was hiding her face with a hand, crying, how can you do this? We just became a family again against all odds of dimensional splits, reincarnation. Now you do me like this. How could my babies do me like this? She cried. Naruto and Sunset turned away, putting an arm around the other's shoulder for a sibling meeting, as the sister said, she is playing the tear game, brother, we can't let her win like this. Naruto nodded and said, you have more skill at being an as than me, you do it. The vixen snapped her fingers, damn it, you're right. She then broke form her brother and said, sorry mom, but we can't be moved by years, it's for the best. Besides that, everyone who could be after us already thinks we have gone nomadic for a while anyhow. They are split up trying to guess where we'll be next, so we most keep that up. Or all the remaining terrorists will be right up on the leaf. We barely made it out last time that happened. Celestia stopped crying as she sighed, damn it, you are my daughter, not moved by tears. You'll be a great mom someday. Sunset then jumped and said, but it won't be any time soon. The alicorn sighed as she said, and correct response. Meanwhile, Rarity was walking along with a basket in hand, humming as she moved it to keep it out of Choji's hand. Choji, this are for the party, hands off, she said, nice but firmly, even waving a finger at him. Fluttershy then landed as she asked, Rarity, I am a bit turned around, do you know where the bed store is? Rarity, point forward, right next to the flower shop ahead. Why you ask? The yellow mare rolled her eyes. Spike has Fias and gave them to Akamaru, so we need flea bath stuff for pretty much all of us. The white mare's eyes widened as she let out a simple clean, F. But back at the Hokage Tower, Celestia was playing Go Fish with her kids while they continued the argument. Got any twos? Naruto said, Go fish like we're going for 2 years, he said flat about it. The mother took a card as she eyed her son and said, this is getting ridiculous. Sunset rolled her eyes. No, ridiculous was when we all played solitaire while continuing it. This is beyond stupid. Mom, come on, it's not much different than backpacking after collage, she said while making her cards hover before her. Celestia's eye twitched. I can do this all day, children. Naruto then said, I am going to ask if you have any threes. Celestia handed one over and he put down 2 threes and added, then I will point out we are your kids and we outnumber you even if alone we don't have your will together we will outlast you mom. It's as sure as the 10 tails behind me, he said as he made flaming numbers appear on each tail so it read 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 behind him. The former princess rolled her eyes and she said, we'll see. 5 hours later Celestia slammed her head on her desk, I'll approve it when is my last act as Hokage right before I give Tsunade the hat at the end of the day 9 months for now, the Fox twins high-fived in victory. They left as the former solar princes looked at them and said, little assholes. They get that from their dad. She then shot a glare to Minato's face on the mountain behind her which was right next to her face now, still miss your ass. Believe it. Pinkie Pie was packing things in seal as her mother said, 2 years. Igneous looked at her packing, stop packing I do not care what she says you are not leaving for 2 years, he said putting his hoof down. Pinkie Pie rolled her eyes, first I am a shinobi legal adult status so take that up. Second if you want me to stay try telling that to Naruto and Sunset you know the demonic twins both with the power to rip out souls. We found out when Naruto does it the person turns into a tree thanks to that guy who tried to mug Hinata. Yes he pissed on it if you were wondering. Both parents backed away at the thought as Cloudy let out a call of, I guess we were kind of overreacting. I mean it's not that long and it's normal for youngsters to leave for a while and see the world. Pinkie Pie looked over her shoulder and muttered, best part of being friends with the people determined to end or save the world, she said happily leaving. Meanwhile at the Academy. Mizuki was showing away a group of students formed Diamond Tiara, come on enough of that. And how are you mocking her test scores are better if anything she should be the one mocking you little BRTS, he said using a genjutsu to make his head look bigger. Tiara got up dusting herself out her outfit changed to be black pants heels sandals yellow mini dress over the pants and what looked like a black short sleeve with a bow around her waist. Tiara sighed as she threw a practice star but it missed the target, why I thank you for the compliment ISCK at range. Mizuki petted her head, with your taijutsu scores close range seems to be more your think instead of struggling with a skill that isn't for you shift focus to what you are good at to cover it. After all Lee Chakra network is underdeveloped making it so he only has taijutsu. You didn't see him struggling to pull out a jutsu. Diamond Tiara smiled at it and said, I guess not I just wish I knew a cool jutsu like, Mizuki held out paper and handed it to her and it split as the teacher said, your chakra nature is earth you can pull off other elements but earth will be your easiest. The mare rolled her eyes and said, so I can dish out dirt yeah that be epic, she sound disappointed. The teacher sighed as he said, earth can be a powerful element by adding it to generic jutsu you can have shadow clones that turn to mud splitting your enemy. You can travel underground for sneak attacks, you can make walls and shields even hammers and other blunt weapons. And with enough power each can even reshape the battlefield. Genjutsu isn't you nor is long range. So let's factor in your element. And your skill in taijutsu and you get your skill set should be aimed at close-range stealth assassination and strike moves. She smiled as she held her chin and said, gee you do this with ever student sense. The white-haired man petted her head and said, no just the ones I think have what it takes to make it. And as far as I can tell you're the only one in my class that isn't going to quit after in a few weeks when it comes time for the classroom shuffle, he said firmly as he watched a kid trip over his own feet while kicking a dummy, how even. Thank goodness for the new life BLD. We got coming in. Meanwhile. Kabuto was walking around messing around with a paddle ball as a passerby looked at him and said, you try going weeks without arms or legs you would always be doing stuff with them too, he said adjusting his glasses with his free hand. He then overheard Filthy Rich talking with Kurama, so now that my daughter isn't interested in your genjutsu you want her out of the program like me? Kabuto rolled his eyes and before the red-eyed lady could speak he said, Lady genjutsu is easy to break with a call of Kai. Well most of them the complicated ones that are dangerous drain your over-specialized as it if anything you should be proud the lady tried to not be so over-specialized. I mean Lee gets a pass as he has no choice in the matter but you're an adult with years under your belt. Also I am not here, he said vanishing showing his message was delivered by a genjutsu. On a rooftop nearby Kabuto was messing with the paddle ball getting it, this is addicting in its simplicity, he sounded ashamed of himself. He then pulled out his phone and picked it up, hello you got Kabuto. The Metal Man of the Leaf. Shikamaru's voice said, Metal Man really? Tinman would be funnier. That's based on a book. At least. The white-haired young man then said, well man I feel like I would be lying as most of the limbs aren't tin. And if I start lying what's to stop me from going down the evil trail again other than my ass getting kicked again? That didn't end well for me last time. I still feel the itch I felt on my left palm before I lost the real one man. The genius on the other end said, okay then make a therapy appointment later right now back to the matter at hand dude. Remember that story we told you about a portal to a land filled with anthros and that wizard who is the reason Kushina came back? Kabuto sat up rubbing the back of his neck, yeah what of it? On Shikamaru's end he was looking at a portal in the forest as he said, I am looking at another one Twilight is on the way. I would like for there to be more brains so can you meet me? Kabuto then said, sure dude. Find you through the where's my phone app later. Later on Kabuto was with Limestone meeting up with Shikamaru Twilight, Choji and Rarity. Shikamaru had his hands in his pocket as he said, really you brought Limestone? The mare crossed her arms, if my sister can do it and my boyfriend who is on new legs and armed with any arms can do it so can. Rarity adjusted her mane, I do so hate it when they think it's easy just because we make it look so. Choji nodded and said, you were warned so what we go through the portal and into another adventure. Twilight rolled her eyes, recon only remember last time people remember it. They then came out and in a moment they looked to be in a jungle. Kabuto adjusted his glasses before he held out his left hand and in a moment a small knife shoot formed the palm hitting a tree. The sap that came out was green. The ninja held his chin as he said, interesting. It's like this strange plant Orochimaru was studying it died from not having the right kind of soil so we are clearly where it comes from. A moment later Limestone screamed only for her boyfriend to jump out making his arm shield come out to block and shatter a stone spear before he brought his other fist out hitting what looked like an anthro zebra in tribal gear back. Nice mohawk. The tribal pony was panting. He got up pulling out an obsidian knife to try and stab him speaking in a long they couldn't understand it looks like chakra was flowing in the knife. Kabuto smirked as his other arm had a knife blade pop out of the hand form the palm to block it as he went in for a shield bash knowing him out with a blow to the face making him fall over. Choji was already tying the guy up as he said, nice work Kabuto. Limestone was panting as all that happened was so fast she couldn't see it to her spear was coming to her eye knocked thing she knew her boyfriend had saved her then he was being charged by a guy with a knife. The cyborg shinobi retracted his build and weapons and smirked as he said, again Limestone it's not easy we just make it look so. Okay now what's the deal with our mohawk guy? Did we trespass is he a killer? Twilight her eyes and made her horn glow as the knocked out anthro glow. I cast a spell he'll be able to unstand and speak our long we'll get the information from him. Limestone was still panting hands on her heart. The zebra awoke tied up as Twilight asked, okay why did you attack us? In a moment the stallion responded, winged devil. Winged devil workers. Kabuto adjusted his glasses while everyone else jumped back in shock, so the wings set him off, I do believe some kinged race is subjugating his people. Trust me Twilight is not a winged devil the opposite in fact, the stallion said nothing. Shikamaru then sighed, come on we all know where this is going. Let's leave him here for the others to find we have a people to save again. As they walked off Rarity asked, Limestone you coming or staying with your attacker? The mare soon head off with the others, before long they stumbled along a village Griffions in samurai-like armor leading zebra in chains as Kabuto said, I hate being right sometimes. It was at that point Shikamaru say a crying child zebra fall and the SLV-MSTR's WHP came up and he growled jumping in the way and calling out, shadow possession. In a moment all the griffins were frozen as Shikamaru shook his hand making them do the same, I am Shikamaru a human shinobi of the Leaf Village and we of the lead hate slaver. Now I'll draw you jerks attention to your shadows all connect by mind forcing you to mimic me. He then mimicked reaching for the sword at his side with he didn't have, making the Gryphons' eyes widen in horror as they drew their blades with were now point to their chests as Shikamaru said, and this is for trying to harm a child. In a moment he mimed stabbing himself in the chest, making the Gryphons scream in horror as they did it for real, killing themselves. The zebra child's mother grabbed her child as Rarity and Twilight made their horns glow, shattering the chains as they point, "Go run, you're free." The freed slaves ran past them all the while Limestone had fainted from what Shikamaru just did. Choji was rolling around as a human boulder as more Gryphons showed up as Kabuto guarded his knocked-out girlfriend, as Twilget Sparkle was in the air firing off beams from her horn calling out, "You could have used Shadow Strangle." Shikamaru, who was now using Shadow Needle to stab Gryphons as they charged, as he said, "But the surefire way to go to hell is to die by your own hands." They were about to beat an enslaved child, they deserved to go to hell. So I don't regret sending them there. At that moment Twilight had to make a quick move to the right as airborne Gryphons with spears charged her. She was doing well to avoid them and fire off beams blasting their head off. Unlike the zebra, they didn't seem to have any idea how to use magic or chakra. Kabuto was using his shield arm to rapidly block strikes from a Gryphon before he held out his other hand, shooting off a throwing star, hitting it in the neck, killing it. Behind him Rarity was leading the zebra to the portal out. Even the one they tied up was being led out looking ashamed as his people confirmed the claim they were saviors. In the air Twilight smiled as she sent out a pulse and said, "And that's it, all the zebras are out." She then coughed one spear between her fingertips and shattered it to the Gryphon's shock as she said, "You bully those weaker than you, yet you turn panicked when you are outmatched." Kabuto picked up Limestone and smirked as he carried her off. "Come on, let's go." The Gryphons were retreating as the Leaf Shinobi fell back through the portal not too far behind them. While Kabuto was leading the zebra into the village, Shikamaru and Twilight were watching the portal still open. But the white-hair shinobi wasn't focused on that as he walked carrying high girlfriend bridal style leading zebra. "Okay, this way, single file please, don't stare people, just former slaves seeking refuge status in the Leaf." Even the kids were enslaved by the Gryphons. "This why please, this why." Marble, who overheard it, turned to see Sasuke in his curse form and she said, "You going to go check out where they are coming from, aren't you?" The Uchiha flapped his wings and said, "I have to Tenga Pride matters." He then flew off, spotting the portal, and he dove through it. Shikamaru and Twilight looked at each other confused as she asked, "Why didn't it close?" The other one closed after everyone was through. The male shinobi make a chuckle sound, troublesome. But the portal closed after everyone was through and the one behind it was dead. Meanwhile, on the other end, Sasuke was standing before a group of fleeing Gryphon samurai as he walked along to what looked like a palace as he said, "Come on now, I know the final boss has to be here," he said as he kicked the door down. There was a Gryphon samurai in green armor with gray feathers and beak. His left eye was a glowing green stone as Sasuke rolled his eyes, a stone of Gala so last season. The Gryphon's eye shined, making an illusion of the Uchiha massacre, but it was glitchy and static, making Sasuke walk through it as he said, "Really an illusion, this cheap versus my Sharingan, you're stupid," he said, his new eternal Mangekyo Sharingan shining through it all as he smirked, charging a Chidori as he moved his hand forward, landing in the Gryphon's chest. The image faded as the samurai stood stunned and shocked as the other hand ripped out the stone in his eye and the shinobi removed his BLD-covered hand, leaving the shogun to fall over dead as he walked out saying, "Well, now that was stupid. One trick, and he though he had the right to decide for others. You make me sick." He walked through the Gryphon dropping in fear, running screaming much like the zebra they abused, and Sasuke smiled happily at it. "That's right, learn from this or we'll be back with friends." He then ended his curse form as he walked into the portal back, throwing the stone in his hand. As he coughed it, the portal closed as he held it out to Shikamaru. "You should have seen the lack as worst nightmare genjutsu the shogun tried to cast with this. He was using it as a glass eye, easy to rip out and remove." Twilight rolled her eyes as she said, "That's just stupid." Shikamaru nodded as Sasuke flicked the stone to him as he said, "I think this is you guys and Kabuto's thing. Cheers, I need to go find a hose to wash my arm off. The Gryphon BLD is real warm. Not enough to burn but just enough to be creepy," he said, holding his hand out so he didn't use it. "Should have though of a better way to kill him." A month later the zebra had built their own tent city, if you will, within the trees around the Leaf, which had grown large. They had bridge and ladders leading from place to place and down to the leaf. A few of them proudly wearing the leaf symbol upon their person with pride in their new homeland. In the middle of one zebra location, Sunset was happily reading some of the zebra kids how to read with a smile upon her face, while not far away her brother was teaching Chakara control tree climbing. Watching through a telescope in her office was Celestia, and she was smiling at the sight. "I love this." Luna then walked in and said, "Dear sister, as you know, me and Kimimaro were in a relationship." Well, she held out a positive test. Celestia took a sip of some tea, then got up. "Well, he best go ring shopping before I get a hold of him, little sister." A few weeks later in the academy, Mizuki was looking at 3 of the students together training. Diamond Tiara, who was popping in and out of the ground making face at the other 2. A zebra girl her aged called Zekara, dressed in brown animal skin one-piece dress, heel sandals, bandages around her legs and arms. She was holding a staff which she had glowing with chakra. The other was Hanabi Hyuga, who turned on her Byakugan, to point at a spot, there. Zekara then hit the ground with her staff. The blow broke open a small hole, showing Tiara's shocked face as she ran. The zebra girl smirked. She made hand size and called out, "I had to drag on as I am not a moron, so water-style water dragon." In a moment the water dragon with was small went into the hole in the ground, and a very wet Tiara came up and pointed her. The earth pony mare called out, "You win this round." She then wrung her tail out. The teacher smiled. He was seeing teamwork and 2 ninja with opposite elements sharpening each other. He adjusted his headband as he said, "I see them as one future team that will work." He then heard an explosion and sighed as he said, "What did they do this time?" He face-palmed. Later on in his office sat the nervous Sweet Belle, Scootaloo and Apple Bloom. Sweet Belle dressed in a basic black shirt, sleeve pants, sandals and belt. Scootaloo had on goggles, a black sports top, black sports short sandals and a blue jacket. She looked the most nervous. Apple Bloom was dressed much like her older sister was, minus the hat which she was holding nervously in her hands shaking. Mizuki held the bridge of his nose as he said, "So let me see if I got this straight." He then pointed to Sweet Belle, feeling mocks that you couldn't preform a jutsu of your element you tried to add in magic as a replacement. It worked, you shot a fireball. He then pointed to Scootaloo, who said, "And you want to add your smoke bombs to it." He then pointed to Apple Bloom and said, "And you added an explosive tags." They all nodded, and he got up from behind his desk and said, "You realize, girls, I have every right to expel you for blowing up a room." They looked scared, but he sighed, "But instead I will give you all one more chance, but with a catch. Your parents, well, aunts in Scootaloo's case, kept saying you 3 are bad influence on each other. I am thinking they are right," he said, recalling what he understood of this anonymous event. "So he said, so I am transferring your classes. You 2 will not be around each other at all in this school." They screamed as it meant they couldn't even be a team together. They cried and tried to as their way out as he said, "No, as ladies now, I'll have your new classes for you tomorrow. Right now you 3 will go home early. With means you will be do really bad on tomorrow's history test." The 3 nodded. As they left sadly, Apple Bloom putting her hat back on as she said, "This bites y'all." The teacher sighed as he said, "I am the only one dealing with them. That's the worst part." Meanwhile, Pinkie Pie was standing on the lake around the waterfall, avoiding slime ball fired at her by a road. She was jumping and avoiding in crazy ways that end with her doing a handstand on water as she smiled happily, singing a little song about avoiding road slime. That is when Maud, Limestone and Marble showed to see it, and Maud blinked. "I do not like what this ninja thing did to our sister, made her weirder." Marble then looked to Maud, who was in a rather plain white kimono. "Maybe because you aren't dating one of those guys." "I mean my Sasuke," she said dreamingly, picturing him holding her in his curse form flying through the air. Limestone crossed her arms and said, "Please, he has cheating eyes and a cheating power-up. My Kabuto had to work for everything even harder because he lost his real arms and legs. Now that's a real man," she said deafeningly, making the 2 sisters get into an argument about whose ninja boyfriend was better. Maud walked off as she looked at the rocks on the river bed before turning to see what looked like one moving. She wandered off curious about it and saw a shinobi moving around manipulating the earth around him, and she raised an eyebrow at it. She moved closer, spotting it as someone her sister was already around and someone she saw form the compound, and she snapped her fingers. Niji Hyuga. The Hyuga stopped making a rock drop as he said, "Oh Maud, you startled me. I am starting to see how you could be Pinkie's sister." The Anthro Mare, who was clearly more focused on what he was just doing, "You were just manipulating the rocks." The shinobi said, "Yes. My clan looks down on use of outside jutsu, so if I want to learn I kind of have to come out in the woods and practice using chakra paper. I found out my elements are fire, water and earth. 3 elements, and that is rare." He then gave a gentle fist strike, shooting off a small fireball as he said, "Adding fire release to taijutsu is easy." He then did the same thing, sending out a small water needle, as is water with my family style. But earth is a big of a problem and it's my dominate element. Maud blinked as she said, "How can I tell if my element is earth?" Niji handed her the paper and it reacted. "That reaction is for earth, so you have it." The Anthromare blinked as she asked, "So I could do that moving rocks with my mind thing too?" Niji nodded as he put his arms together. "Yes, would you care to practice with me? It would be a help, as you could get away with renting a basic on earth jutsu book or scroll from the library." Maud blinked before saying, "I'll go do that and meet you by the waterfall tomorrow, but right now teach me what I need to know to use chakra." With that Niji start teaching Maud, who honestly cracked a smile for a moment as the sun was setting. Niji was walking her home as they came to the compound to see Hinata's father looking at them. "I raised," and Muad said, "He is walking me home. Form a date, sir, it's normal." Niji jumped in shock, as did the clan leader, as Pinkie Pie walked out in a white sleeping kimono. "All my sisters are dating my male friends, yes." She then hugged Niji and said, "You've been like a brother to me and now you can honestly be one. Welcome to the family, Niji." Maud rolled her eyes as she said, "Sister, you're embarrassing us. There will be time for that on that trip, as mom and dad insist on all of us sisters going with you. They probably, though I would keep you 3 in line, but I am now with boyfriend, so no promise," she said before walking over to Niji, who was still in a Pinkie Pie bear hug. She kissed his cheek, then whispered something into his ear that made his jaw drop. Niji then let out a cry of, "Lot of contradictory emotions hitting me at once." A month later Rarity was walking around when she came to Ino, who was asking, "Where are you off to in such a rush?" The unicorn put her hands on her peach. "Well, since you ask, you Sakura and 1010 may not know because you weren't invited, but in a few months we are leaving for 2 years, so I am buying up fabrics and clothing for altering and fighting in that time. Since I highly doubt most stores will sell to someone like us." Ino rolled her eyes before opening a medical textbook. "Oh well, good luck on wandering for 2 years as a nomad." Meanwhile in the Hokage Tower, Celestia was sitting turned to the window sighing. She was marking down the days till she would step down, give the hat to Tsunade, and her twins and friends would set out, leaving the village behind for 2 years. She sighed as she turned around to look at a picture of Luna and Kimamaro's wedding. She sighed as she said, "Not even looking forward to being an aunt. So unfair, she'll be able to dream walk to see them whenever she damn well feels about it. I'll have to ask her to take me with her, I guess." That is when she jumped when she heard a sound. Her mug had fallen from the metal of the desk off the edge. She looked it, before picking up the pieces with magic and hovering them into the trash. Odd, maybe my wings or tail knocked it over. She then got up to adjust a picture of Minato on the wall, turned to go sit back down, but when she did it was lopsided again. "Okay, the nail must be loose or the frame breaking," she said, writing it off as she heard a voice saying "Get out" as she grabbed paperwork. "Please, they've been pulling that SHT since I got the office." She then read over the paper only to see the ink vanish as she rolled her eyes. "Disappearing ink, really people," she said, honestly believing this was a prank. That is when a ghostly image appeared and she jumped up and back, going out the image where she flapped, stopping her fall as she panted, "Okay then. My office is haunted, but how?" She then pulled out her phone and made a call. Later on at the office, Sunset and Naruto were looking around as Sunset spoke up. "Dad had some of his chakra sealed in case of death at the house, allowing him to wander as a placebo ghost, but none of us could get in, so maybe something similar." Naruto crossed his arms and said, "More maybe the stress just got to you, Mom." Celestia pointed at her son and said, "Boy. I am a solar goddess, leader of a village, retired princess, mother of 2 twin demons, rebirth of the Red Death, and sister to the goddess princess, retired of the moon and dreams. I am many things but going crazy is not one of them. Sunset looked around and said, she is right. It may not be as good as the Sharingan or Byakugan in the seeing chakra trails department, but my Rinnegan is clearly picking up trails of a faint chakra that doesn't belong to anyone who's entered this place recently. I still think it was a prank and not a spirit returning. I know that sounds stupid after the curse warrior thing, but... She was unable to finish as at that moment lighting struck, revealing a being standing in air outside the shattered memory. It was female, red-skinned and haired, the hair long as its ankles, mouth with fang teeth, 2 on each jaw sticking out of the lips, curved red horns coming out of the sides of the horn. The being was in a BLD-covered white kimono, roaring, making Celestia jump in shock before the lighting stopped and it was gone. Please tell me someone saw that. Sunset and Naruto blinked as they said, we do and are. Lighting struck again and the being appeared, this time holding a sword and coming out to attack. Naruto tried to fire off a tail beam as Sunset went in to rope it with chakra chains, but both attacks passed through it. But when their mother drew a blade, she was able to hold back the sound, slashing as the monster roared, "Get out, you don't deserve it." The former princess turned reborn shinobi's eyes widen as she kept slashing as she said, I was a leader. And I am just doing what Minato would want. She called out. Only for the being to keep striking and cracking, as the ex-princess jumped out the door into the hall, was holding her sword as she drew her second, both glowing with fire like chakra. Only for the being to gain a second sword and strike. Naruto held his chin watching. The thing and mom is mirror each other's moves, altering just enough to make sure no one lands a blow, like shadow boxing, he said, commenting on it to his sister. Sunset held her chin as she said, it doesn't feel like the curse warrior, so ghostly. Yes, but it's not dead. She seemed puzzled by the being. The thing said, you came back. You go all you want, form your time as Celestia. Why didn't get to come back too? It roared, its skin and face cracking more. Celestia was crying as she countered the sword strikes as Naruto snapped his fingers, as he called out, Ikiryo. Sunset took off following the ghost and her mother with Naruto. What? She turned to her twin. The brother then said, not all hauntings are the living. Legend says repressing feelings will make them haunt you as much as any ghost or demon till you accept them or it kills you, he said as he pointed to the demon's red hair as it said, I mean red-haired sword lady demon. Sounds like mom to me. Sunset's eyes widened as she yelled out, Moem, the thing is you. Celestia ducked as she yelled out, say what? The demon's face cracked more, making a fourth of it fall of, revealing a corner of Kushina Uzumaki's face under it. Making the current acting Hokage's jaw drop as she said, it is me or half of me. The hell? She said, swinging her swords to hold back her ghostly double's own blades. Naruto then cleared his throat. Thing about what it says, this Ikiryo was born out of what I guess is resurrection or reincarnation guilt. Celestia didn't have love or kids and gained both by merging with Kushina's soul. Kushina had love and kids but lost them and regained the kid part and life by merging with Celestia. But the same can't be said for Dad. Celestia jumped back, putting her swords up as she pointed at her double, who was in tears. She cried, yeah, it is bad he didn't get to come back, but as a mindless puppet. We will never get to be a family. And yes, I feel cheated out of missing all of my kids' lives. Yes, I feel like a stranger them, but I will change that. I love them and will love them double for Minato. The ghostly double's skin and face cracked to reveal a crying Kushina, who now had a faint smile as she faded away till she was gone. The current Hokage held her head and said, I need therapy. I'll book an appointment with Ibiki. He will talk to me and works for me proudly. He knows how to break minds, so he should know how to put them together. She then walked over to and hugged her twins. The two returned the hugs as all three cried. The two twins wrapped their tails around their mother and each other as Celestia covered them with her wings as she sadly said, I came back and I won't let you two be left alone again. Time passed and Celestia was laying on a therapy couch and she said, and now it's 4 months till I give up the hat to Tsunade and my kids leave for 2 years with their friends, and the thing worries me to least is the idea of when they came back I am a grandmother. Ibiki sighed as he took note. Lady Hokage, permission to speak freely? She nodded and he said, nothing about this is normal, lady. You are the fusion of two ladies, one of which is a solar goddess horse with wings and the other a lady brought back to life. And thereby mother of two half-demons, one of who has become the legendary Destroy and the other the legendary Hero. Nothing about this SHT will ever make sense or be normal, so stop asking for the impossible. Celestia nodded as she hovered a cup of tea to her hand and took a sip, and she said, "A fine point, but I don't want my inner demons to come to life and attack me again. I mean, do you know what's that's like?" The shinobi pointed to his facial scars and said, "Yes, I do." Celestia raised an eyebrow as he said, "It has to do with my little brother being tricked into stealing for a vault, and the fact even though he can't return as what he stole was broken in the retrieval, making him a criminal to the leaf, since the one who tricked him killed himself, so he couldn't clear his name. So he has to live on the run under a new name, so I will never see him again." The Hokage lady blinked at it, raising an eyebrow as she said, "Damn," she said as she looked at him, "can't I pardon him?" He sighed and said, "It was the second's energy blade thing that broke a one-of-a-kind treasure. It can't be pardoned till someone makes a new one to replace it. The guy didn't even want to reverse engineer it and make more of them, he just wanted for himself," he said, just stunned. Celestia pulled out her phone and sent a message. "I messaged Kabuto to look into it." Ibiki laughed and said, "If he can make a new one and allow me to see my little brother again so that demon stops attacking me for a whole day on his birthday, I'll go out with you, Lady Hokage. Not that you aren't pretty or anything, but out of respect for the workplace and the fact your kids would probably rip my soul out. They can both do that from what I hear." The former princess smiled and said, "Oh, trust me Ibiki, respect for the workplace is the only reason I haven't crossed the line with a number of my staff really hard. When you're a widowed mother of two, a goddess, a village leader, and worst of all equine with a heat cycl." The male shinobi coughed and he said, "Okay, changing the subject, miss, before your kids burst in here and rip my soul out." She nodded as he asked, "Let's do word association, shall we? I'll list a person and you tell me in one sentence what they are, short please, no run-ons." She nodded and he said, "Naruto," she said, "my baby boy who got screwed out of even a sister." He wrote it down and said, "Sunset," she said, "my baby girl pony me unknowingly raised, meaning I kept the daughter and not the son," she cried, holding her face in her hands at the comment, dropping the teacup to the floor. The male shinobi wrote it down and said, "Yes, yes, that is another root of it, I guess. One twin got you back before the other. I don't know how to help with that, as you were not her mom's reincarnation at the time." Celestia whipped her tears on her sleeve and pulled out a tissue to blow before throwing it in the trash as she said, "Oh yeah, that's the worst part. Makes the moment she ran away from pony me all the worst. It's like losing a baby all over again." Ibiki then nodded as he asked, "And have you favored Sunset since being back with both as their mother?" The alicorn held her chin. "Well, no, I guess not. It's mostly just been me giving sword tips to some of their friends, as there wasn't really anything I could teach them. If anything, I favored Naruto, as he was the one talking better till the 10-tail change restored his mind and he then restored his sister, even though I think I favor him because he is the one who didn't get a family till now." Ibiki nodded as he wrote that down. "Yes, yes, favoring the other one to try and make up for lost time," he said, and the pony lady raised an eyebrow and sat up looking at him. It was quite for a bit till Celestia blinked. "So now I am alienating another twin. F. was all she said, face palming. The male shinobi then continued, "Yes, yes, it's a complex thing. I honestly know a lot about how to break and fix a person's mind, but I don't know how to fix two fused minds. One side favors Sunset as it raised her, another favors Naruto, the son who lost everything. This is a conflict I don't know how to end, and it's something I think you'll have to work out for yourselves, Lady Hokage." Celestia got up and dusted herself off, hovering the remains of her cup into a trash can as she sighed, crossing her arms. "I guess you're right, only so much can be do with so many unknowns around our village and those in it. But while I have you on a personal knife, why the kata as a go-to weapon?" The shinobi pulled out the weapon and held it. "The blade is right on my fist, so my strikes with it are the same as punches and chops. That way I can just simple use unarmed fighting styles with it. I literally didn't have to learn or change a thing to use this effectively." She nodded and held her chin as she said, "So lazy, fine, good, good. See you next week." The next week she walked out holding a silver device, and in a moment a 4-inch blade of chakra came out of it, shocking the guy as it was made bright pink, and she smiled. "Now about that date, let's have it after my kids are gone, so no soul removal. And I'll send a team to bring your brother home saying it's all okay as we have it back again but smaller." I don't know why Kabuto made the thing pink. Meanwhile, at the ramen stand Naruto stopped eating as Hinata looked at him and asked, Naruto, you stopped eating your ramen? The ten-tailed looked at his girlfriend, I am sorry, just the someone is checking out, my mom's sense triggered. Across from them Sunset stopped eating too and pointed at her brother, so you felt the disturbance too? Flash looked nervous as he said, doesn't your mom have a right to be happy and find line again? He asked, kind of scared. Naruto nodded and said, yes, it's only if they break our mother's heart will we go on the attack. The ramen chief laughed and said, I had the same stance with my daughter, he said happily as the twins returned to eating ramen. Choji walked by eating chips, we have the bravest person alive then. Or the stupidest, or maybe both. Rarity was beside her boyfriend taking a chip as she said, both Choji, my cuddly pillow, both. Surely both, she said before eating it. Hinata then looked over her shoulder and whispered, well now either way it's a couple I never would have thought about. But a lot of that is going around these days, isn't it? In a moment Naruto panned around and kissed her, making her turn red and her eyes widen. In a moment Hinata grabbed his face and appended the kiss, taking charge of it, making Rarity go, I am proud of you, Hinata. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 5. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author JBoy44 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.